Welcome to Wellness Tea Time with Dr. Rita. My name is Dr. Rita Sonko, a public health physician. I am the host of this show, and I aim to help you engage with different guests to understand more about mental health. Remember, Toliweka, you're not alone. It's very important for us to break the stigma and break the silence about mental health. Welcome to Wellness Tea Time with Dr. Rita. I have a very special guest, Veronica Mirembe. Thank you for coming and joining me today.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you. Please introduce yourself to our viewers so they get to know a little bit about you.
Hello everyone. My name is Veronica Mirembe Benediction. Benediction means a blessing, or Veronica Mirembe Mukisa. I'm a 36-year-old lady with a 22-year lived experience with bipolar disorder. And I'm here to give hope to people who battle mental health challenges, just like the program goes, the saying goes, Toliweka, you're not alone in this. And I'm here to talk about bipolar and my personal life trajectory and ways of helping patients know how to overcome and different strategies that I'm using as a patient that are helping me to also help other people.
Very important. Thank you so much for doing this with us.
You're welcome.
And I think, like you said, 22 years experience. That means that it started out very young for you, 14 years old, when you had your first experience. And we wanted to focus, in our earlier conversations, I discovered a lot of the challenges that you have faced with stigma, and I thought we would focus our conversation on that particular issue, because with Toliweka, our mantra is break the silence, break the stigma. How do we break the stigma if we don't actually bring it out and talk about the issues? So I thought it's such a great opportunity for us to focus on that point. So having gone through that very early diagnosis at age of 14, what did you find to be the biggest struggles you dealt with at that age? You were a young person, only 14 years old, and now you have a diagnosis that is not a common diagnosis, it's not malaria. What experiences did you face during that period that you would classify as stigma today?
So sorry, before going to that question, let me also talk about myself. I'm a qualified journalist.
Yes.
I'm an author. I do mental health advocacy. I'm a linguist and have so many things I do. But in today's episode, I want to really focus on the mental health advocacy bit. And coming back to our question, as a young child who was diagnosed, as a young adolescent who was diagnosed with bipolar at the age of 14 years, I really went through a lot of stigma in school because at 14, I was in DJSS, Ndeje Senior Secondary School. And when it happened, I broke down mentally, and it came as a result of students teasing me in school. And I didn't know it affected me to a point of me breaking down mentally. I realized I was teased in school, and it so happened, it affected me mentally, but I was not recognizing it. It was going to turn into something very big that has taken me to be on treatment for all this while. So I went through lots of stigma because I had to leave boarding school. I had to be enrolled in a day school. I was taken to Old Kampala Senior Secondary School because I had to be on daily medication. My parents didn't want me to go through that hassle of being around children. They're asking you while you're taking medication. So from Old Kampala, I went on merit. I went to Makerere College School and did my senior 6. I was a very bright student all through Old Kampala, but I realized there was lots of stigma in regard to mental illness. I remember students would share stories about you that even are very false because they know about your mental health history. I would go through a lot of stigma, everyone knowing that. I remember in Makerere College, there was instances where I'd go to assembly and advocate for no fornication in school, and a school like Makerere College. I think you understand when I talk about Makerere College. And everyone would call me mad. They would share all kinds of stories about me. She has run mad. She's telling us not to have sex before we are married. So it affected me in a way, I had very low self-esteem. I remember as a young adult, because I began medication at the age of 14, And I realized I would, like the medication has side effects because it brings lots of appetite. I was a very small, slim girl. And then when I began the medication, I began adding lots of weight. And this affected because it really ruined my esteem. I remember I would walk to marketplaces and you find market vendors, making all these statements about you. That connotes to like you are a grandmother. Why don't you tell your grandchildren to come and get kids for you? You can imagine.
You were only 16 or 17.
15 years, and I think it really ruined my esteem as a young child. I grew up knowing I would never get anyone to appreciate me for who I was. In school, all these comments from students, once a model, twice a balloon, they really affected me to a point of having that low esteem in society and losing that confidence in myself. But the one thing I remember, I really kept on loving myself because I spoke to myself and told myself, I'm not the one who brought this in my life, and I had to love myself. I was so confident, and you would never put me down because I knew I was beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, because I would not allow labels because what I knew I was not defined by tags. I remember I was overweight, but I would speak to myself. God looks at the heart and he doesn't look at the outside. I remember I spoke to myself and always knew I would get someone who would appreciate me for who I was. It's what I tell people. It doesn't matter how the medication has brought lots of weight to you. Learn to believe in yourself because at the end of the day, you have not chosen to be on this medication to bring you this weight. Learn to affirm in yourself. Learn to exercise. Eat clean. Like I tell people, at 15 years, I weighed 150 kilograms. I'm now 36 and I'm back to 70, my normal weight.
Wow.
It's because I learned how to love myself, how to believe in myself. I was less attentive to people's words about me. When you read the Bible in Proverbs 29:25, it says, people's opinions are none of your business, but mind more about God, what God thinks about you. I had to learn to think more about what the Lord thought about me than what people thought about me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is profound. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And of course, from your experience now as an adolescent and those, dealings with stigma in school, the bullying, which is, of course, probably part of the root causes of the problem in the first place, as you were saying, being teased and all of that. So that is really bullying at that age. And then it being escalated, of course, with the weight and all of that. I can imagine that would have been very difficult to deal with in that social space as a young child.
Yeah.
And you needed a lot more support to just survive. It sounds like you already had a lot within you that helped you keep going, which is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just thinking now about the workspace and the challenges that one may face, especially when your employer finds out or your work colleagues find out that you have a mental health challenge. In your experience, did you face any challenges during the workspace and how did you deal with that?
Thank you very much for that question, because I believe it's a very good question to also help the policymakers and the people at workplaces learn to understand how to help people who battle mental health challenges. I remember this thing has always come as a pattern. Whenever I signed a contract, because I'm just 36, but my CV reads, like I have a CV that reads, I've done 10 international contracts, right? Some of them have been because of my French language and have been short-term contracts. But I realize I have hardly worked for all these contracts because of people knowing about my mental health history. At times, your contract is terminated because someone gets to know that you go to Botabika. It's why I tell people, or people patients, because I got to learn, because I realized there were some organizations that employed me after disclosing that I'm a patient in Botabika, but they would take me on, and it was not bad. So I would talk about my mental health because they would ask me, why have you left the other job? And I would tell them I broke down mentally. And you realize in the workspace, people will never get to understand people who battle mental health challenges. I'll use a very practical example I have used in most of my books I have written. There was this particular trigger that came as a result of like when you go through bipolar, you have the highs and then the lows. So whenever I was in that high, because it came as a pattern, whenever I signed a contract, I would always get a voice telling me, you're getting married.
Oh, wow.
And I would always run after men. I'm not ashamed to share this because I share it to help people know how to help other people who go through this. I'm not the only one because people see ladies acting like this. At times, even men have it, men who battle bipolar, because at that point, your libido is high and people never get to understand these things.
Yeah.
But people just stigmatize people. They are talking about them. They are sharing this about them. But one has not chosen. It is a condition. And during that time, you realize your libido is a bit high. So I would get something. And I remember I've gotten it with over 30 guys. There was single church guys. And a voice would tell me, and I would tell him, like, I'm getting married to you. And I would get like a clear voice telling me I'm getting married to this person. And I would begin running after them. At times when you're just friends, some of them were like work colleagues, some of them were your friends in church. And I realized most of them made me public shame. They publicly shamed me. Some of them went to an extent of putting me on social media. This big mugugu is running after, with the way it was so big. And it really affected my esteem. But I knew I had to forgive myself because that wasn't me. Because in my actual sense, I can never run after a man, But whenever these attacks manifested, they led me into running after men that kept me in shame to a point of taking me into suicidal ideations. Sure. I always felt so bad about myself because I would reach that extent even of forming WhatsApp groups. And I'm telling people I'm getting married, and in the actual sense, there is no one. Why am I sharing this? Because at times these things happen in life, and ladies are taken advantage of. So many men take advantage of ladies. So many ladies take advantage of men because they are going through a manic attack. So it is why we are sharing these things to tell the public to also know how to help people who battle mental illness. Because someone at times is running after someone and they are not in their true sense. And when I realize that is not me, I go to forgive myself. Because when I realized most of these guys I've been running after, they were not the type of guys I really want to settle with in my true mind. So I go to forgive these people and forgive myself. And actually know that the battle belongs to God. Because at that point, you're out of control. It is not you. It's just a force of darkness that wants to keep you in shame so that you commit suicide. You're feeling low in society. And when I made a choice, I'm not defined by depression. Because I remember I have not used antidepressants for over 15 years. Wow. However, I've been going through manic attacks. I told myself, it doesn't matter what shame I go through. This is not me. And it gave me more of that self-love for myself because I got to know these were not the people even my heart was. Like in my true sense, I would not run after someone like this. So you have been asking workplace. You realize in the workplace, people are stigmatized because they get to know about your mental health history. But you ask yourself, if someone is taking medication for diabetes, how come they don't have any problem of terminating a contract because of that? Someone is taking ARV, someone is taking medication for hypertension, for cancer. But why does taking medication for mental illness have to be something very ashaming? People take the insulin shots. There is no problem with that. But why does taking psychiatric medication have to be shame? It is why we're into this advocacy to also help policy makers. At times it never gets to you when people never wake up when it gets to you. There's a story I like sharing. There was some place I won't mention. I had gone for a job and someone terminates my contract on grounds of you have a mental health disorder, even it had not manifested. And recently I find this HR in Butabika. He was on admission and he was going through depression. Because he got to know 5 of the kids he has been raising, 4 were not his after DNA. So we want to show people, as you stigmatize others, as people make these policies, they should know they're also human and can also come back to you. You may do it to someone's child, but you have kids and they'll also do it to your child. So this is something to also help policymakers wake up that can also happen to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, your story is just incredible. To think that you are so talented and people want to work with you, but they terminate the moment they know that you've had a mental health history, challenges with mental health. And that is something that perhaps, of course, I know that Medix, we haven't done a good job advocating and advising the public and creating more awareness around mental health and mental illnesses. And that's why there's such a high level of stigma.
Yeah.
And I take some responsibility for it on behalf of my fellow medics, and that's why we have Toliweka to really try and demystify these things and help people understand this. But the struggles are really enormous. And we've been talking mostly within the workspace. I can imagine in communities, you would even potentially have bigger stigma issues, especially because people don't even have the education.
Yeah.
Has that been your experience?
That's a very beautiful question. In the community, it is worse, you know? Like allow me use some Luganda because people have to also understand these things. Omanyi tubeereyo ku byalo gye tubeera. Omuntu ne bakubako omwana mulungi naye agwa eddalu. Family abo bagwa eddalu. And like, why am I sharing this? People out there, you have to be very careful. As you stigmatize others, just know you're also human. Because each of us is a potential candidate to mental illness. Absolutely. As long as you have a brain and you live in a body, we are all susceptible to mental health disorders. Yep. People can make someone public shame and that it's the reason why people go into suicide. People commit suicide, like they cannot handle that, like people's words, you know? And in communities, it is worse because people only forget anyone can break down mentally because of any prevailing factor. It is why even we want to create this awareness because when most people break down mentally, it's like they have been bewitched, it is black magic. But we want to show people, if the brain can, like if the heart can break down and someone gets hypertension, if the kidney can break down and someone gets diabetes, you know, the white blood cells can have and someone gets HIV. Why don't we think the brain can also break down? Why do we always allude it to stigma? I really concur and I really believe there's a lot of witchcraft related to mental because I don't refute it. It's a very true allegation. Because when you look at the spiritual aspect of mental illness, most of it has it has witchcraft related to it. But why I tell people, even in communities, don't fight evil with evil. If someone is bewitching, you take your patient to God has gifted doctors with wisdom that can help them treat us. It is like you're fighting evil with evil. You hardly know what witch doctors are putting in you, and then you begin saying they have sacrificed me as a patient. Because I have seen it myself. For the years I began hearing voices. I had voices for years. But when I began my lithium carbonate in 2000, the voices went. You know? So it's why I tell people, you will go to a witch doctor, that they're giving you help, and you're adding worse things to your pain. You know? You already have pain. It's why I tell in communities, you find there's lots of... Like the stigma is there, and I believe it's why people take their people to witches or false prophets. You know, mental illness is real because when it happens, everyone will give you different counsel. So if you're not firm, and as I'm finishing that community part, thing with stigma, people have to understand we are all human and everyone can break down mentally. So as you point the finger, make sure you know everyone has a door of adversity. I like telling people, someone can be told a running car has hit your child, and then you strip naked and you break down mentally. You have lost someone you love and you break down mentally, but you are the one making someone else public shame. So as you make others public shame, we have to understand we are all potential candidates. There's something I wrote in one of my books. You find even in our own country, you find parliamentarians stand Butabika case. Do people have an idea how those statements make people who go to Butabika feel? You know?
And that is exactly that stigmatizing of the hospital.
Exactly. It's why people can't come out to get help, you know? Because at the end of the day, everything's Butabika case. Myself, I tell people, I'm proud to be a Butabika case because it's Butabika that has given me purpose in life. Yeah. You know, at the end of the day, if I had not been through this shame and rejection of being through this mental health facility, I would be so lost in the world. But my being there has given me purpose in life.
And it has given you your life back.
Amen.
Yeah, you got your life back and purpose. Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think can be done to to improve the support in our communities, what is the one thing that we should do differently? Because clearly, I mean, this stigma thing is it's always been there since we can remember.
Yeah.
That means we are not doing something. Can you think of something that we could do differently to help?
That's a very beautiful question. For example, you may have someone who has fallen sick. You know, like we have it in the Baganda culture. When you see someone a good dead, it's like someone is. It's why you see most people fear people. If you talk about Botabika, everyone will begin fearing you, because all people of is. You know, let's just mind of that derogatory language we use as we point the finger. You know. And then how communities can help people learn to support people instead of rejecting them. No one has chosen to break down mentally. At the end of the day, I tell people we all have that day of adversity. No one has chosen. So learn to support people, because you realize when you get mentally ill, no one even wants to come and visit you in hospital. But like, she may not like seeing people around her, but you're like, you guys, if someone is your friend, why don't you be there for them? The other thing I really encourage people, learn, like, for example, people who have patients who battle mental illness, learn to believe in people, you know, learn to treat people with dignity. Because you realize most people in communities are very stigmatized because we are not given that dignity as people. Because someone has seen you in an uncontrolled state, you are seen as a loser in life. And people only forget that anyone can break down mentally. You know, so how does community come, like, let people try to avoid that derogatory language they use while addressing people with mental health issues? You find someone is attacking someone because they know about their Butabika history and they'll use that against them as if they have chosen. Let people try to look at patients without judging them, because people have no idea of what people are going through. People will go through something called psychosis. You're out of reality, you know, and there's something convincing. That example I had with something telling this is your husband, and it's you're out of reality at that time, because you know, and someone will not understand. So I'm like, hey, she's a loose girl. She runs after men and what, you know. But someone won't understand that just like any part of just like any body part breaks down, even the brain can get a chemical imbalance.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I suppose that increased awareness is really critical.
Exactly. Creating awareness about mental illness, something very, very beautiful for people to know how to help people who battle mental health challenges.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as we conclude, I would like to talk about the issue of addressing rights. Again, the rights of the patient, the rights of the individual who might be affected. And as you have spoken quite eloquently, right from school through to the workplace, through to the communities where you've lived, experiencing these issues. What could schools and workplaces do differently to make sure that they actually don't infringe on the rights, on the human rights of the individual who is struggling with mental health challenges? That's
very beautiful. I believe places like workplaces learn to understand people and be there for them. For example, if you know someone is on psychiatric medication, at times it makes them sleep. And they're not able to perform, give them that time, to deliver when they are in the right state of mind, you know, because at times there are things that happen. I'll use an example. There's a friend of mine I knew. He was an art teacher in a secondary school, and his contracts have been terminated wherever he has gone because they know about his Butabika history, you know, and yet he's on his medication. He's a very good art teacher, you know. Let workplaces learn how to also put those facilities that help, medical facilities that help people access mental health, mental health support. Yes. For example, if you know someone is on mental health medication, as an HR, learn how to support them without just chasing them away from a job. Exactly. I would tell people, whenever my contracts were terminated, you'll find me so happy at Alliance Française Library reading my French, and I would eventually get another contract. I didn't go into the self-pity parties, because at the end of the day, even if you cry and lament, you won't get that job back. It's why I tell people, even if you go to the pity parties, they don't help. Because at the end of that, if Christ went through rejection, who are we that won't be rejected? You know? So there are certain things I believe as people who employ us, they should learn to know how to handle people. For example, someone knows someone breaks down mentally, and for example, maybe they know they run after men when that season comes. People try to understand that person and look at them without judging them, without taking advantage of them. Let people understand this person is not well. Obviously, not everyone will understand it. But if it comes from a workspace environment, people can understand exactly. They can really know how to support this person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think from what you're saying, it's also educating.
Exactly, creating awareness.
So the HR person needs to educate themselves, need to read up.
Exactly.
How do you create a supportive workspace? And I suppose goes to the schools as well.
Yes.
Similar issues.
Yes.
These children need to be in school, they need to study. How do we support them better? And we need to gain the understanding that we must have so that we can provide that support.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Veronica.
You're welcome. Just one word as we finish. Let's all not forget Tori Weka. We are there. I have battled with bipolar for 22 years. Yeah. And I have done lots of things. I have achieved a lot in life. I have authored books like Hope Amidst Bipolar.
Yes.
It is a book where I use my personal life trajectory to help people who battle mental illness and show them there is hope amidst the struggle, because you're not defined by a tag. Yeah. Everyone has something they're going through in life. Yeah. Mine may be bipolar, and bipolar is a tag, but you're not defined by that, and you can achieve a lot. My latest book is 22 years in a mental asylum, 18 years in Butabika and Still Beautiful by God's Grace. And in this one, I really talk about stigma. I fight the stigma and give patients hope that they too can achieve. You can get this book from Unique Secrets, opposite Workers' House. Yeah, that is it.
Thank you so much. I think this is such a beautiful book. Thank you so much for sharing it. And there's nothing bigger than a gift of hope.
Yeah, true.
Another human being.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for this gift of hope.
You're welcome.
People will pick it up and educate themselves and learn more about the issues that you point out so eloquently.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Veronica.
You're welcome.
Really amazing. And to our viewers, thank you for listening in. I hope you've gained more insights on the issues that we're dealing with. Stigma is something that we really need to address, but the starting point is getting the information that you need, educating yourself about the issues so that you do not stigmatize someone else who is struggling with mental illness. Thank you so much again.
You're welcome.